Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of premarketinfo.com, where we prepare you for the most important hour of the day. We're working on a few charting enhancements for our listeners today, so please bear with us during the technical difficulties. Starting out with the S&Ps, we got our daily chart up there. Currently trading up $12, closed at $11.99, had a weak close in the S&Ps. Tick one tick below the close. Took off, made it 1198.75 low. If that holds as the high of the day, we could sneak back up into that mid 1220 range, 1224 and a quarter. Globex high stands at 1213 and a quarter. Really don't have a good number for you there, folks. If that holds as the high of the day, we got a downside target of 1187.75. Right now, we need to stay just above that 1205 level, the mid-range and the daily pivot, to keep the rally going this morning. Dennis, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Joel. How are you doing?
Good, real good.
We're looking like we're up here 12 points, 12.11 trading, obviously. So market's having a good day as well.
Okay, let's start right into the Big 10 here with the biggest of the 10, Apple Computer, closing at 82.21, trading smartly above that level this morning, Dennis. We're getting a little boost from the S&Ps, trading above Monday's high at 384.85, so we'll use that as support if it comes back down to it. Next stopping point is 387.38, which would be the 4-day high, and coming back down, we'll use that close, that settlement 382.21 as support below the 384.85.
Stock starting to look stronger here again, Joel. Decent relative strength. It's up 3 points here this morning. I got this little gap where above that 384 area we were talking about there yesterday, 385. So now there's a little bit of gap up here up to 390. So I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen a little bit of air here and a quick move.
Okay, moving on to our next component, ExxonMobil. Just grinding in here, folks. Take a look at the chart. We got a real tight range here. Closed yesterday just off the low at 79.52, the low at 79.38. We had a couple other lows in that area, so real good support if we come back down to it. Gonna come up and test Monday's high, which was 80.46, and then backed up by Friday's high at 80.91. Just a tight range, Dennis. 79.5 to 81 here. ExxonMobil looking to take some direction here soon.
Yeah, as you can see, best bid's up at 80.27 right now, trading 80.35, so stock is a little bit relatively stronger. It was a little weak yesterday. Obviously, we get up to this 81 area, we might see a little bit of resistance up there.
Okay, moving on to our next component, IBM, after getting shellacked on triple witching, managed a muted bounce here. Didn't quite get to the weekly low yesterday, which was 181.81, making a low here at 182 and a quarter. So let's call this 182 area major support. Coming up, it looks poised to test Monday's high at 184.69. Above that, things really open up until Friday's high at 188.01.
Yeah, the stock here, 182.89, closed, trading 184.30, so getting had an awful few days here, Joel. It's been relatively weak. Getting a little bounce back here. Hard to find levels for you for resistance because, we've just come down from that 190 area a couple days ago, so there's a lot of air in here. So if you're trading IBM, be careful.
Okay, moving on to our next component, Mr. Softy. Dennis, I've come to a conclusion about this stock. It's the opposite stock. So, if we say it's breaking out above 26, you short it at 26, okay? If it's breaking down below 25.5, you buy it at 25.5. This stock just seems to be anti-volume, goes away for it, still in that 25.5 to 26 range. You got to be a buyer back at that 25.5, and just playing that range for now, Dennis.
Yeah, well, it was actually had a breakout day on both sides there yesterday. It's getting above our regular range trade as high as 26.12, and then broke down to as low as 25.46. So outside range for Microsoft yesterday, which was nice to see a little bit of volatility. And trading back in the middle of that right now at 25.78. So I don't know. I still think you're a seller in the 26 area, and I agree with you that you're a buyer in that 25.50 area.
Okay, moving on to our next component, another big oil stock, and we talked about this level yesterday, Dennis. Look at that 99.5 level. Holy moly. I mean, what do you have, the Fed stop, coming in here at 99.50 or something? I don't understand it. It just closed just off the low at 99.72. We are trading right up, very close to Monday's high at 101.33, and then you got Thursday's high at 101.60. But I tell you, Dennis, this thing gets above 101.60, and it's just boom, straight up to 104.
Yeah, this Chevron Texaco, you're right, great support here, 99.5. I can't believe how that's been like a rock bottom level there. So obviously on a pullback, that's where you're a buyer. 99.72 close. It does open up if you get above, yesterday's high. There you start to look. It starts to open up a bit. So if you're shorting the stock here, we're actually probably going to open up in that area of near yesterday's high if the S&P holds on to where it's trading right now. And above that, you do have a little bit of air to fill.
Okay, moving on to our next component, J&J, opened up right into that resistance that we talked about, Dennis. Couldn't quite get to the Friday and weekly high at 64.37. Stopped short just at 64.28, and then boom, boom, one seller came in. Got an interesting formation on the downside, not quite as tight as lows as Chevron, but three lows, Thursday, Friday, and Monday to 63.36 to 63.57 level. That would be a great area of support to bring in a short to try and land the first time. And then we're just trading near that upper band in the mid-64s, 64.28 to 37 would be major resistance.
Yeah, that trade there that we were talking about, that 64.3, that gap up on Friday, the Friday close obviously put a lid on it because the stock trade as high as 64.28 and then was weak all the way from there, straight down from where it had gapped up to the previous day. 63.36, obviously yesterday's low. You want to keep an eye on that. But if we start rallying and get back up, and which we probably will a little bit this morning with the S&P, we get back up in that 64 area, 64 to 64.30. I gotta think there's going to be some sellers there from some people who might have got caught long yesterday.
Okay, moving on to our next component, Procter & Gamble. Once again, bumping up against resistance. Couldn't quite get to Friday's high, which was 65.59. 65.63. Got to 65.59 yesterday before pulling back. Getting a bunch of lows here just above the 64.5 level, 64.65 and 64.74. Coming back, we're trading at 65.25, so let's use that close, 64.95 as support, and then you'll start to be running into resistance, I'm sure, once you get above this 65.5 level up to Friday's high at 65.63.
Yeah, and yesterday's high, 65.59, and then we were talking about size here yesterday at 65.75 too, Joel, so it's going to start getting thick all the way from 65.59 all the way up to $66. There's even huge size up there. So definitely major resistance starting at 65.59, 65.75 would be your next level. And then in the 65.90s as those high frequency guys lean on that 66 area that we've been talking about, it seems like forever.
Okay, A&T, I don't know if you want to talk about it now. We're in the market movers here, done with their deal with T-Mobile, trading down here in the pre-market. I do have 28.28 is good support in this thing, trading just below the weekly low at 28.51, so that is going to be some minor resistance. In fact, if it can get back above there and test the close at 28.74, but the street seems to be a little disappointed with that $4 billion breakup fee.
Yeah, they're definitely disappointed with this T-Mobile deal not going through. 28.44 as it's traded right now here. Obviously bid there 28.43 as you can see. I'd say it's this 28.5. If we do in fact open below this 28.5, Joel, it starts to open up a bit. You had a low there a couple months ago, but really I could almost argue that this could see $28 here in the next day or two if we start to get below this 28.5. Obviously, on any rally, I think you're going to be met with stiff resistance from the settlement price 28.74 all the way up to the 29 area, which we've been talking about for quite some time. Obviously, Sprint, we'll talk about that in the market moves, but it's getting a lift off this deal falling apart as obviously they think maybe AT&T will acquire Sprint now instead of T-Mobile.
Okay, maybe they'll do their homework on that one. Okay, moving on to our next component, Generous Electric, bumped up against Friday's high, so we got major resistance here, just above the 17 level, 1709 to 1710. Came back, closed 1686, just above the low at 1679, so anywhere under 1690. I imagine you'll find some bids in this. And above that 1710 level, Dennis, I mean, I'm sure there's things in the book, but I'd be looking for 1734, which was the high on October 28th.
1752, Joel.
Yep.
I just think that area overall, if you go, was 1734 that a high back in October? Or was that
two highs, Dennis? I made
okay.
Yep, two highs there. Yep, I just, this is the 1734 high. The previous day was a 1750 high, so.
Okay, that's a 1750 that I'm seeing. So obviously that level's going to be some stiff resistance up there as well. This 17 number just seems like a magnet, though. We've been hanging out here pretty much for the last, couple of trading sessions, and earlier in the month we were hanging around this 17 area too. So this area does seem to be a magnet. It seems like we have to when I say a magnet, I mean the stock gets up to 1720, seems to pull back to the 17. Stock gets down to 1680, seems to pull back to the 17. So sometimes you can trade these magnet plays by when they get away from the number, you short it, if it's going up to 1720, you might have a play to short it at 1720, 1725, thinking that's going to come back into that 17 magnet. So when we talk about magnet plays, that's what I mean, and the 17 has been acting like a magnet.
Okay, moving on to our final component, Coca-Cola. Look at this wall here, Dennis. 67.75, all the way up to 67.87, which was Monday's high. Just bumping up against there. Trading above there in the pre-market here, Dennis. Is this the day we finally go through 68?
I don't know, Joel. It might be the day we go through 68, but you got to think, early on you're going to get some decent resistance there. Those high-frequency guys have been leaning on that 68 number, it seems like forever. So I don't see that being any difference. If 68 goes, though, then all the high-frequency guys get out, and then it can start to move up. So you need to see 68.01 trade. I wouldn't even say 68 being trading is good enough. You need to start seeing 68.01. You start seeing it go above that, then the high-frequency guys will be out. So, but before then, I think you got to be playing to the short side, and we're going to open it right up in that 67.90s resistance area.
Okay, coming back on the downside, they'll use that 67.87 as a swing number, and then I'm sure you'd find real good support at the close at 67.37. Just a quick note, on Dennis's end, you are seeing, some, quotes. Those are provided by, TradeStation. All rights are reserved by TradeStation. These charts are only for informational purpose and should not, be basing any investment decisions on these charts. Well, that's our first portion of our show today. We will be back very shortly with our market movers.